Well, today marks 10 years since Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 disappeared in one of aviation's greatest mysteries. The search for the missing plane is one of the most expensive and expansive searches in history, spanning from the South China Sea to the Indian Ocean. The reasons for its disappearance have not been officially determined, but my next guest is insistent it was a case of murder-suicide and has made that bombshell claim that Australia and Malaysia knew this all along. Joining me is pilot and aviation expert, Captain Byron Bailey. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Byron, on the 10th anniversary. Now, in your column, which you wrote for Sky News Australia today, you said that the Australian government covered up the captain, Zahari Shah's alleged role in the disappearance of the plane, deliberately avoiding a search of evidence that supported this murder-suicide theory. Why is that?
Well, we have to go back to the beginning, that Tony Abbott, when he came clean in the 2020 documentary that Sky did, that he'd been told 4 days after the disappearance by the Malaysian Prime Minister that it was murder-suicide. And the Malaysian Prime Minister mentioned that the plane was obviously flown under pilot control across northern Malaysia up the Straits of Malacca to disappear. All the evidence pointed to a pilot being in control. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau at the start was planning a search based on this. Tony Abbott later admitted he wanted the search to be based on a pilot flying it as far as possible after fuel exhaustion. You can glide it for over 100 kilometres. I've done it in the Boeing 777 simulator twice. And what happened is, just as we thought everything was looking good, the Australian government, or some of them, interfered and blocked the search and said, they've invented an accident theory with no evidence. So the search then became based on a theory of an accident with no evidence. And for 3.5 years, we've been screaming, you're wrong, you're wrong. And they've been ignoring us. It meant the whole search was a fraud because all they had to do was go that little bit further south. I don't know if you can see that.
Just hold it up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But right at the bottom there is...
If you just hold it up.
This is, the green is the actual search area that they did. The white line is where us pilots have demonstrated in simulators that you can glide it. And just notice the little triangle just outside at the bottom.
Yeah, this one here.
Yeah, the little triangle. Yep. That's where we said they should search, and they refused. And Ocean Infinity...
But why did they refuse?
Ask them.
Why would they? Why would they refuse, do you think? What would lead them to make that conclusion?
They're trying to conceal the fact that the captain planned and committed this mass murder. The flight plan was given in October 2014 by the FBI to the Australian Transport Safety Bureau. A colleague of mine was part of the search planning team, told me this. So when I wrote about it in the Australian, they denied it.
Right.
The Australian Transport Safety Bureau denied it for 2 years. They had this plan.
When the original search happened, as you know, that they were searching particularly off the coast of Western Australia.
Yeah.
Do you think that was the final resting place?
Well, actually, yes, definitely. All the evidence, the science is solid that the satellite arcs, the hourly log-on requests. The last one, the 7th hourly one, which is that red magenta line there, that's the 6th one, and the 5th one's about here. That's solid evidence. So we know it crossed latitude 38 south, heading south at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right. So they were looking in that right area, is what you're saying?
Sort of, but they only had to go a little bit further south. And instead, people like that idiot Dolan, who was running at the time with no aviation experience, said, our evidence says it's unlikely a pilot was in control.
Right, OK. So we know this week that there's been some suggestions that the door has been left open to resume this search. Will it ever happen, do you think?
Oh, yes, I think so.
You think they'll go back?
Because Ocean Infinity was briefed by a colleague of mine, Captain Simon Hardy, Boeing 777 guy like me, and he thought they were very willing to search in this area, and they were blocked from doing so by the Australian Transport Safety Bureau. And just to mention, the poor Australian Safety Bureau were the patsies for the government because certain elements of the government wanted to conceal the fact that this captain had planned and murdered 238 people. And I don't know why the government would do this. Perhaps they're worried about Islamophobia or something like that, but certainly they interfered.
Well, look, I mean, it's 10 years on. It's so sad that the families of those on board still haven't gotten any closure after 10 years. Nobody knows what's happened, but, you know, hopefully, eventually, if they do go back down, they will find something, fingers crossed.
I wrote to the Prime Minister 3 days ago asking him to support the Malaysian government and saying that the Australian government wants to find MH370.
All right, well, look, it's a real tough one. Captain Byron Bailey, appreciate your insights this evening. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Danica, most welcome.